Today we have some exciting news with recently released evidence regarding the mom vlogger abuse case in Utah. Defendant Ruby Frank and her business partner Jodi Hildebrandt pleaded guilty to 4 counts of aggravated child abuse. Remember, Frankie's 12-year-old son R climbed out of Hildebrandt's window and ran to a neighbor's home asking for help. R had appeared to have duct tape on his ankles and wrists, malnourishment, and severe wounds. Both women were sentenced to serve 4 to 30 years in prison on February 20th, 2024. Let's take a listen to Kevin Frankie's police interview right now.
Just let you know, I am interviewing the Miranda rights before we start. We're just kind of ask you a few questions about your involvement. Okay, so first you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be held against you in the court of law. Okay, you have the right to an attorney or to have him or her present while questioning. If you cannot afford to hire one will be hired to represent you. If you decide to answer questions, you can stop at any time. Okay, do you understand your rights?
I do.
Okay, do you wish to speak to me now?
Well, I want to pick up my kids.
How about this? We're going to ask you some questions, and if you don't want to answer them, you just say, hey man, I'm not going to answer that.
Sure.
And
Just say, hey, I'm not going to talk, that's not beneficial to you, and then we're done. You're nowhere, and we're nowhere, and
Sure.
you understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so just for starters, what was your full name?
Kevin William Franke.
How to spell that?
KEVINWILLIAMFRANKE.
And what's your date of birth? What's a good address for you?
I'm not comfortable giving my address right now.
Okay, but you do live in Springville?
I do.
How long have you lived in Springville for?
I moved there in 2007 with my family, so
And how many?
17 years.
17. And how many kids do you have, Kevin?
I have 6 kids.
And what are their names?
I can't remember. Some of them are teenagers, 2 are adults.
So are they all living with you, or
No, I haven't seen them for over a year.
any of them?
No, none of them.
For a year?
Over a year.
Okay.
I've been in a separation
From who?
from my wife and family.
What's your wife's name?
Ruby.
Ruby. When was the last time you saw Ruby?
The last time I saw her
Yeah.
was the 18th of this month. We met she requested me to sign over vehicles, or the titles to the vehicles, the vehicle that she drives, that were all in my name.
When's the last time you physically saw Russell or Eve?
The day that I moved out, July 24th, 2022.
24th of 2022.
Or July 25th, July 25th.
So it's my understanding that at least home here in Kayenta and Ivins, have you been to that home?
No.
You've not been to that home?
No, I don't know. I don't know what's anything that's been going on.
Like, this is good, man. Like, I would love to be able to help you out with this, and like, I'm seeing the light of need because I'm unaware of your involvement in what's really going on. So for you to say that you're unaware of the status of your kids kind of makes, I know that sounds kind of crummy to you, but it sounds kind of good to me. Like, who lives in that home with your Is it ex-wife? Is it currently a separated wife? Like, who lives in that home with your children?
To be honest, I don't know. I know that she's there with 4 of the children, and our 2 older children have moved out.
They're not at your home in Springville? And I'm not trying to trip you up. I can see you're hesitant to talk to me. I understand that.
Well, where I live, no,
Yeah.
I haven't seen them for over a year.
Okay. That's tough. I can only imagine how that feels, man. I got kids. And to not have seen them for that long, that would tear a piece of my heart out.
Of age to drive. Does she drive?
I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, I know nothing is going on
So-
in their lives or anything going on.
How did you find out that you needed to come here to 55 North Main Street?
I received a message that I needed to come pick up my kids from the police department in Havent.
And who was that message from?
Well, I prefer not to say right now.
It would just help us a lot.
I'm trying to figure out who reached out to you because it makes sense that that would happen. I'm just not aware of anyone who did that from our department.
Right. And I'm not comfortable saying right now who reached out to me.
Okay.
Okay.
So you haven't seen any of your kids in over a year, you said?
That's correct.
And then what was the last time you saw her? How old is she now?
15.
She's 16. Okay. And then when all the kids left, Ruby took all of them?
Yeah, she stayed in the house and I moved up.
Okay. And did you ever try to reach out to the kids, drop by the home, or
No.
was
I
there?
honored the no separation boundary that we agreed to.
So what
Or
was
no
your separation?
contact boundary, excuse me.
Did you have a no contact order in place?
Order? No, this was between my wife and I.
So what did Ruby ask of you when you separated?
What did she ask of me?
Did she ask you not to contact the kids?
Ruby invited me to leave the home while I thought about the choices that I've made in my life and the way that I've treated her,
Okay.
and so I left.
And how long had you and Ruby been married before?
We were married in 2000.
So about 22 years?
When we separated, we were going on 22 years. Yes.
Okay. And during your marriage, how was disciplining your kids? How would you discipline your kids?
Yeah, I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, that's fine.
Have you been since separated or since they lived here in the city of Ivans? Have you communicated with your wife regarding like disciplining with your kids or their care or their physical well-being?
No.
So is she doing this on her own and just telling you how your kids are?
She's not telling me anything about the kids.
Who's this female Jodi that your wife lives with? Do you know a female named Jodi?
She is a therapist and a life coach, I know. And she's...
Do you respect her?
Do I respect her? Yeah, I think she's a very honest, truthful person, yes.
Okay. You place value on Jodi?
I don't know what that means.
Like, do you value what she says and how she treats? Is your wife a client of hers? Is your wife a partner of hers? Is your wife a roommate with her? Your kids are living in her house is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not aware of that, but I know that they've been in business for the last year filming.
Who's they?
Ruby and Jodi. They film podcasts, and so every week a podcast goes up and I listen to it. And,
What's the name of it?
Connections with an X.
Like CON.
CONNEXIONS. Yeah.
And do you support them in that role and doing that and having?
Do I support them in the business?
Yeah, like do you support them and think that what they're doing is a good thing, or?
Yeah, I support their business efforts. I think it's a good thing.
Are you involved with their business efforts, or?
No.
Okay. So just Ruby and Jodi. No
In
Kevin.
the business?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Were you involved in the 8 passengers account with your family?
Yes. I was in the videos, and if that's what you mean.
I briefly learned about this 2 hours ago.
So did Ruby more so do the videos for the family? And how long did you guys do that for?
She started the channel in 2015, and as far as I'm aware, from the time I left, the last video she uploaded was towards the end of 2021.
Okay.
And again, I'm not aware of anything she's done since our separation. I don't visit 8 passengers anymore.
Chapter of your life that's gone.
It's a past chapter, yeah.
So how do you and Ruby communicate? Just through text, phone call?
Through text, and if there's anything considered an emergency, we agreed that we would communicate through a phone call.
Okay. And do you know her phone number off the top of your head?
The top of my head, no.
Okay. No worries. So how often would you guys communicate while she was down here?
Well, I don't know how often or long she was down here. We've communicated maybe 4 times in 2023 since January.
So are you aware of how she disciplines the kids, or how she handles
No,
the kids with behavioral issues or anything like that?
no,
So you're unaware of how she does that?
yes,
Okay. Are you aware of the physical condition of your children?
no. No, I've chosen to trust my wife with the children. That was part of the agreement of our separation.
Is that you allow her to physically provide for the needs of the child? You're just removed from that? I mean, you pay support. I know this is personal questions, but
Yes, my job is to financially provide for
I'm just trying to figure out like how much of a role do you play in the caretaking of specifically, is it Russell and Eve, of those 2 kids?
I pay the bills.
Okay.
With my job, I provide the money, goes into a shared bank account, and that's my only involvement.
Okay. Like there's a whole bunch of things I want to talk to you about, but I still can't get over the fact that someone notified you to come here to pick up your kids. My guess is, was that Jodi?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay.
All I'll say is,
Well, you said you
notified
trusted her. You said that you think she's not necessarily. I asked you if you placed value on her, but you obviously.
she is an honest. I know her to be an honest and a trustworthy individual, and so yeah, I trust her. And I received a communication that and so I left immediately from my job and drove down here. That's all I know. I've come to pick up my kids and to take them home with me.
Is there custodial paperwork that says that you're like a... There's no custodial paperwork denying you of rights, correct?
There's no custodial paperwork at all.
Period. So the kids are yours.
They are mine.
Okay.
Yes. This was just a verbal agreement between my wife and I when we separated last year.
Well, what questions do you have?
Oh, I want to know what's going on and why I was asked to come down and pick up my 2 kids.
Okay, there you have Kevin Franke, that is Ruby Franke's husband, giving his statement during this questioning with the police there. And this case is really fascinating. And if you hear the pause in our clips, that's because that is the moment where the children's names are being discussed. And we here at Law and Crime, we are not using the children's names or broadcasting them. So that's why you hear that pause in the audio. But he's giving his statement to police. And of course, Ruby Franke and the co-defendant, Hildebrandt, they pled guilty. They pled guilty to second-degree aggravated child abuse charges in December, multiple counts, facing upwards of 1 to 15 years to be served consecutively, not concurrently, but consecutively. So it's some substantial jail time for the crimes that they pled guilty to. Let's bring in my guest right now to discuss this case with me, trial attorney Catherine Lizardo. Catherine, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Catherine, I want to get your thoughts about this case generally. We have a release of evidence today from the case, and we're seeing here the clip of Kevin Franke giving his statement during this interview with the police. But it's a fascinating case in the sense that Ruby Franke was a influencer. She would have these vlogs, and really she'd be discussing a lot of things that dealt with being a mother. But there you have this case now, and now she's, of course, pled guilty. But what are your thoughts generally about this case?
Well, it's obviously very disturbing what happened to her kids. That's why there's a lot of media attention to this, especially with the spotlight on her. It's my understanding that she had millions of followers before her arrest and before this charges were filed against her, and when we found out what happened to her kids. As a creator myself and a blogger, it resonated with me what is happening here and the disturbing nature of what happened to her and her family. It just shows you that you take everything with a grain of salt, because her followers have been trying out her recommendations on how to treat their own kids. Can you imagine how disturbing that is as to what she's telling them and whoever is being influenced by what she's saying? But what's even more disturbing is that when she was arrested and all of this were playing out, people were asking where was her husband. Now, this drop of evidence helps us understand where her husband has been. Did he know what was going on? And we can see in the video that they had a separation.
Yeah. All right, Catherine, we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break here in Law and Crime.